It's 6 pm. You close your laptop and you genuinely can't tell what you did today. You had 5 meetings, stand up, a product sync, sprint planning that ran over, a one on one with your manager, and an incident review that probably should have been a Slack thread. Your calendar was packed totally. Your output is zero. And tomorrow, it looks exactly the same. This episode is not about why this keeps happening and what to actually do about it. So let's be specific about the day. Stand up at 9, fine. Then a product sync at 10:30 that turned into a scope debate. Lunch got interrupted by an incident ping, as usual. Sprint planning at 2 ran until 4. Then you are one on one at 4:30. By 5 pm, you already had 40 browsers tab open, 3 Slack threads half answered, and a PR that was one function away from being done. It's still one function away from being done. And here is the part that actually gets to you. You were not slacking. You were present in every one of those meetings. You unblocked people. You gave feedback on the spec. You made actual decisions. But at 6 pm, when someone asks what you shipped, the answer is nothing. And you can't explain why. The gap between effort and output, that's what this episode is all about. So, most engineers I talk to say the same thing. I need fewer meetings. And yeah, some of those meetings were unnecessary. But here's the thing, on a 2 meeting day, you have probably still feel scattered and underproductive at 5 pm. So, it's not just the count, there is something else going on underneath it. Here is what I actually worry about with the meeting heavy calendar. It's not the wasted afternoon. It's the engineer who 6 months from now gets passed over for the high stakes project because there is no visibility of body of work. There is no visible body of work. The engineer who gets those opportunities are the ones who shipped features, improved systems, documented architecture decisions. If your calendar is eating those hours where that work happens, you are not just losing your day. You are losing the track record that makes the next thing available to you. The reason you can have 5 meetings and still get nothing done is not about the hours those meetings consumed. It's about what happens to your brain every time you switch between deep work and a meeting and a back. Each switch has a cost that's invisible in your calendar, but completely visible in your output. That cost is what we are going to break down. There is a well established thing in both cognitive science and software engineering, context switching. So, context switching has real, measurable overhead. When you are deep in a problem, you have loaded a large working set into your mental working memory. A meeting flushes that. When the meeting ends, you don't resume where you left off. You rebuild. That rebuild takes 15 to 20 minutes on an average. Not because you are slow, because that's how human working memory actually functions. It's not a personal failure, it's architecture all about. So let's do the math. 5 1 hour meetings is 5 hours of meetings. But each meeting has a context switch in and a context switch out. Call it 15 minutes of ramp up per switch. Both slides. That's 30 minutes of hidden overhead per meeting across 5 meetings, 2.5 extra hours. Add preparation, follow up slacks, action items, etc. A 5 meeting day does not cost 5 hours. It costs a day. That's not a feeling. That's what the time actually adds up when you track it honestly. Here's the structural thing. Meeting exists because coordination is genuinely hard. Someone needs a decision. Someone needs alignment. Someone needs to unblock a dependency. And calling a meeting solves that problem for the person who is calling it. Okay? The cost is not paid by the person who scheduled it, it's paid by everyone in the room. In organizations without deliberate meeting hygiene, the people with the most schedule authority, leads, managers, project managers, generate meetings for their coordination needs. And engineers absorb the context switching tasks. Nobody planned this. It's just what unmanaged system produce. One specific pattern worth naming here, the pre-sync. Someone schedules a 30 minutes to align before the bigger meeting. So now you have two meetings instead of one. Plus the switching, the context switching cost on the both. What actually needed to happen could have been a 3 paragraph message with a clear question. But writing a clear message is way too harder than hitting schedule in your calendar app. So the meeting defaults always wins and your afternoon loses. So everywhere is a trade-off all about. Here's the uncomfortable part. Most engineers have more control over their calendar than they use. Meeting invites are not mandatory. You can decline. You can ask for the agenda and figure out whether your presence actually changes any outcome. But there is a cultural pressure, especially if you are earlier in your career or if you care about being seen as collaborative to just accept, to just show off, to just show up, to be available. That pressure is real. And it's also you end up with 5 meetings on Tuesday. This is the number most engineers have never thought about explicitly. You do not have you do not have 8 hours of genuine problem solving capacity per day. So the research on sustained cognitive work is consistent. 2 to 4 hours of deep focused work is roughly the ceiling for most people. The rest of the day works for reviews, Slack meetings, lighter tasks. If meetings are landing inside that 2 to 4 hours of window, which they usually are, because that's even when everyone's online, you are not just losing your meeting time, you are losing your only real output window. One more mechanism worth understanding, guys. Meetings feels like work. Something was discussed. It's very important, it's very close to me. Something was decided, something moved. Your brain logs that as a productive event because socially something did happen. But the feeling of progress in a meeting and actual output are two different things. A planning meeting can feel like the most productive hour of your week while your velocity is still zero. That's not a motivation problem. That's a measurement problem. The last mechanism, calendar patterns compound. If you accept every invite, you become the person who is always available. So more gets scheduled with you. Your presence becomes load bearing in decisions that could be made without you. And slowly, the mental model people have of you shifts from builder to contractor or coordinator. Changing that perceptions take active work. The longer you wait, the more established the pattern gets, guys. Here is the playbook. 6 moves. Each one is a direct response to a specific mechanism we just covered right now. These are not tips, guys. They are system design changes applied to your own work on how do you work. You don't have to implement all 6. Just start with one, but actually start, guys. Let's go to move 1. So block your first 2 or 3 hours every morning as no meeting time. Create a recurring calendar event right now. Call it whatever gets is respected in your organization. Focus block, engineering work, do not disturb, deep work, whatsoever. No meetings, no Slack, no email during this window. This is not you being antisocial. This is you reserving your highest capacity time of your highest impact work. If morning doesn't work for you, block whatsoever window is actually your sharpest. For me, morning usually works. I usually start around 7:30, take few breaks because I need to send my kid to school and then resume further. But for all these aspects, the principle is actually the same. So for the move one, here is the exact setup. Recurring event Monday to Friday, and it should be recurring 9 to 12 p.m. Means like for the 3 hours of window. You can have the title as engineering focus, no meetings, busy, visibility, public as a status, and the description which you can put it up is like reserved for deep technical work. For urgent items, ping me on Slack. Don't say hi, hello, and I am not going to reply on that. That last line matters. It's not a wall, it's a redirect. You are available, just not synchronously available for the things that don't actually require live conversation. Move to go through every standing meeting in your calendar and ask one question for each, guys. If I were in this room, or if I were not in this room, what would be the outcome? Will the outcome be different? If the answer is no, you are there to receive information and you are mandated in that room. But if you do not need to have a permission to audit this, if your presence is not required, you should not be present there. In spite, you can have some better work or smart work or productive work to do. Here's what works. Hey, I have been looking at my meeting load and trying to protect more time for deep work. I don't think my presence in this sync materially changes what gets decided. Could you share the key points or decision asynchronously instead? Happy to weigh in on anything that needs my input. That's it. You are not being difficult. You are being explicit about how you work best and offering an alternative. Most people respond fine to this. Let's move to the next one, which is like move 3, where most team members are carrying at least 2 or 3 recurring sync up that still exist for a project or a problem that no longer exists. They run on inertia. Pick one this week. Propose a cutting, propose a cutting it to bi-weekly or converting into an asynchronous update with a meeting only when there is an actual decision to make, guys. One conversation with the meeting owner is usually enough. The whole team is silently grateful that someone finally said it. Now the thing is all about where we can have or dealing with this particular thing where we need to make sure that the things are working in your favor. So, for example, let's talk about this particular slide. Move 4. Before you schedule any meeting, ask, can this be resolved with a well written asynchronous message? Most decisions that end up in meetings can be handled in 3 paragraphs: context, options, recommended decisions, request for inputs. The barrier is not that asynchronous meeting does not work or asynchronous task does not work. The barrier is that writing a clear message that takes more effort upfront than hitting schedule. Do the work, write the message. Your team's afternoon is worth it, guys. Now, what we can have, we can just think about this particular move, which is like the move 4, where we can just think for a format where one paragraph on the context that why this decision needs to happen now, while you want to skip the meeting, or list them with trade-offs, even if it is just two, or you can just recommend what you think the right call is and why. Fourth, specifically you can ask, is there any requirement of yourself, or there should be a well structured async message like this gets responses as fast as meeting invite, often faster I would say, because you have already done the thinking part. Move 5. Shallow work does not disappear when you block your mornings, guys. It accumulates. The fix is batching. Define two windows in your day, guys. Say, for example, 12:30 to 1 p.m. or 4:30 to 5 p.m., where you process all of it. It can be code reviews, Slack replies, email, Jira updates, etc. Outside these windows, or switch off your notifications. You respond slower on individual messages. You get uninterrupted hours in return. Most things that feel urgent at the moment that arrive are fine 90 minutes later. So, the small but high leverage tactics inside the move file, let me tell you guys. Set your Slack status during deep work blocks in focus block back at 12:30. Urgent, annotate me or mention me and I will see it. I will see it. This does two things. It signals that you are unavailable, but it tells people exactly when you are going to back. So it does not feel like a wall. And it trains the org over time that your focus blocks are real. Do this consistently for the 2 weeks, and you will notice, guys, people start working around it instead of pinging through it. Now, here comes the move 6, where we can just think about uh, the one engineer we can who can skip this. So you protect the morning, decline the unnecessarily sync up, ship the feature, okay, and then it disappears into the sprint. Nobody noticed, nobody attributed it. In the next quarter, when the high stakes projects is being starved, the person who got remembered is the one who was in every room, not the one who was building. Make your output visible, guys. A two-line Slack update at the end of the day, shift the retry logic, PR is up, is enough. Visibility is not self-promotion. It is all about maintenance. So what you can just do, three lines you need to recite every day if you want to. Before you close the laptop, one line on what you shipped or progressed, guys. It's really important. One line on what's blocked and what you need. One line on what you are picking up tomorrow. Three lines in Slack. Three lines in Slack or on your stand-up. That's it. What this builds over a month of visible output cadence. When performance reviews happen, when project staffing conversation happen, that cadence. So you do not have to advocate for yourself in the moment, guys. The trail itself is going to do that. Now here comes the harder case. What if your manager is the one scheduling four of these meetings? You can't just decline. Here is the conversation worth having, guys. Once. I have been thinking about how to increase my output on the technical side. I want to try protecting 2 or 3 hours in morning for deep work. I will keep afternoons fully available and make sure I am reachable. Would you support that for my next sprint? Most managers say yes. And the ones who don't usually have a reason, and knowing that reason is useful information about how you actually navigate the situation. Now, here comes the next part where the culture objection is all about, where some teams have a real response form or no, where not answering in Slack in 20 minutes reads are disengaged. If that is your team, You can't unilaterally go dark without a conversation, guys. Start smaller. See, it's going to work it out or not. Propose to a team and increase it up to 1 or 2 hours. So basically, you need to frame it up something that is going to work for everyone, including the people who are also losing time to a reactive noise. Getting one teammate aligned first makes the broader conversation very easier, guys. So, if you are a lead or manager, coordination is the real part of your role. And this episode is not telling you to disappear, guys. Both. There is a difference between meetings only you can run and meetings where someone else could own the outcome. Audit both types. For the first, make them shorter, async prepped, more focused. For the second, delegate or drop them, guys. Your deep work window looks different from an IC, but it still exists and still matters. So here's what sits under all of this, guys. Most organizations unintentionally reward visible availability over actual output. The person in every meeting, responsive on every Slack, first to raise their hand, they get seen as engaged. The person who's head down building, delivering quietly, protecting focus time, they can become invisible. And that's a real pain in this real engineering world. That's not a culture problem, leadership will fix within a few value statements. It's a system design problem, guys. And the answer to a system design problem is to engineer around it, not to wait and hope the system self corrects. So, this is your framework, guys, where the first one we have discussed, where block the morning before anyone else fills it. The second, audit every standing meeting. If your presence does not change the outcome, you don't need to be there. Third, compress or cancel recurring things that outlived their purpose. Fourth, write the clear message before you schedule the call. Fifth, batch shallow work into defined windows, notifications of outside them. Sixth, make your output visible. 3 lines every day. That's the overall system. That's the overall system, guys. And remember one thing, what changes when you run this for 30 days? You stop closing out weeks with a full calendar and nothing to show. Your team learns how to work with you more effectively. Async for routine updates, your actual time for the hard decisions, and over 3 to 6 months, the people making decisions about your career start to have a reason to think of you as a builder. Not because you marketed yourself, because the output is there and it's been visible all along. So, Decoded Engineer, where the situations you have already get in a cleaner and the moves to handle them become obvious. I hope you like it, guys. You had 5 meetings a day. Next week, the same invites will land in your calendar. The difference is whether you have designed your week properly or just let it happen to you. So, subscribe for more episodes where we take what's actually happening in your engineering career and decode it's something you can act upon.